Welcome to Linda's Corner. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about going backward to move forward. I'm delighted to welcome special guest Brad Richard. Brad is an author, speaker, mentor, and podcast host. You can reach him at his website, bradrichard.net, and I'll include a link in the description. Welcome, Brad. I'm so glad you could join with me today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
I am excited. Now, there are so many directions we could go because you have so many skills and talents. We could talk about your podcast. We could talk about your book. We could talk about your story. But one thing that really intrigued me was your claim that if I give you 20 minutes, then you will help me be able to move forward. So we've got 20 minutes at least. So I would love to hear what you can do to help me move forward.
Well, the first place that I would start is going back to move forward, as you referenced in the beginning. What I do is I help my clients and the people that I work with, I help them go back to those dark places in their lives and basically reintroduce them to their little me. So in your case, it would be going back to the past, and I know for some people that is extremely scary. They don't want to go back. It's like I've blocked that stuff out. I don't want to revisit it. And the truth of the matter is, I believe that there's some critical answers to our life's questions that reside with our little person inside of us. So, in your case, going back to little Linda and looking at your dreams, your aspirations, the things that you wanted to do as little Linda that you thought, no one or nothing could stop little Linda from doing, bringing that forward, my first question to you would be, are you pursuing and living out the dreams that little Linda dreamed of?
And my answer is yes and beyond, but that was not always the case.
Perfect. That, we could go 20 minutes on that by itself, but it's really interesting how many people that are struggling and that have, multiple issues in different areas of their lives, and they're not connected or they're not in sync with that little person, okay? When I take someone back and I reintroduce them to their little me, and for the people who are not connected or in sync with that little person, we discover some very important keys that have been holding them back. If people are pursuing, or if people are like just in a career or in a job, and it's really not, it doesn't mirror those dreams of our childhood, our little person will fight us tooth and nail and will keep us in a very miserable place if we're not doing what they expect us to do.
That is so interesting. So when you started talking about the little me, my first thought of the direction we were going to go was to find out problems and issues and things and struggles that little me had and be able to uncover those and address those. But you took it in a different direction. What are the hopes and aspirations of your younger self? So that is very interesting. Now, I think a lot of times as we grow older, sometimes those dreams change and they morph and we have to adapt them a little bit. But I think you're right in that those hopes and dreams and aspirations do need to be met in some way. I know for my husband, when he was a little boy, he fell in love with airplanes, probably at birth, and he started flying on his father's lap when he was 4. So he figured that he was going to be, an astronaut. He was going to be the biggest, the greatest, the highest paid, the la 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 la. And he is an airline pilot. He is not an astronaut. But as we have worked with meeting his dreams and his aspirations with the reality of a family and that balance between quality of life and money and time. And his friends who have done the gung-ho, I am going to reach all of my thing, are now on their fourth wife, and maybe they're divorced, and things are a mess. So as you're working with this little me, how do you play adapt a little bit? Because I feel like my husband has done a really good job at meeting his needs, and we're still married, which is good for me.
Mm-hmm. I think when it comes to balance, is that your question as far as the balancing act of life?
I guess.
And not to be so focused in on your goals and dreams that at all cost, to keep it balanced. The most important thing is that a person have that passion and that excitement and that enthusiasm, and that they dream as children dream, and that's unlimited. And if you have that, and that's driving you, it gives you the opportunity to open up your mind to other people's little me, and to embrace others and help them pursue what their little person inside of them wants them to do. And so I think you can bring in a balancing factor as long as you take care of yourself first, and then help others get what they want. There's a famous saying, I'm not sure, I think it's Zig Ziglar, help enough people get what they want, and you'll get what you want, something to that effect. And that's kind of the essence of what I'm saying. You can't help anyone pursue what they love or what they dream of if you yourself aren't doing it for yourself. It has to start with you and your little person. To give you an example of that, little Brad wanted to be a singer. For a time, I was an Elvis impersonator, and I wanted to sing, entertain, make people laugh. I was the center of attention, yada, yada, yada. As far as the music industry goes, that wasn't realistic. And as I grew older, I didn't choose to enter into the music industry for several reasons. I'm like, I don't want a part of that. And so I went through this transformation of looking for alternative ways to express those same dreams, entertaining and singing and making people laugh, making people cry. But I do it in a very different way now with my mentoring, my podcasts, my books, and what my passion is now. So I'm still fulfilling little Brad's dreams, and he's okay with the direction I'm taking us in. And so he's not fighting me on anything. I'm self-parenting. I'm parenting myself because I think it's very important that, not that my parents were bad, they did the best they could with what they had, but I think it's very important that as adults that we really learn some self-parenting skills to keep that little person in check, keep them protected, keep them safe and secure. But we really have to parent ourselves to keep us on track and not let someone else do that for us.
I like that. And as you shared your story, that kind of answered my question that I maybe didn't phrase very well, is that as a child, sometimes the dreams and the reality don't match exactly, and we have to play adapt. And that is what you did. You found the core need from your dreams as little me, and then found a way to realize those, even though it wasn't exactly the way that you originally envisioned. So, okay, perfect. Because I just can imagine, a lot of little kids, they want to be Spider-Man. They want to be, an actor. They want to be something that not everyone can be. First of all, Spider-Man's not actually real. Don't tell my son. But, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. One quick example, and like I said, I know our time is limited. There's a gentleman out there that you can search him on the internet. His name is Dave Mellon, I believe, and he wanted to be a professional baseball player his entire life. He played in elementary school and high school and college, and he didn't want to do anything but play baseball. while he was, going through the ranks and going through the different teams and the different draft picks and all this other kind of stuff, I think it was like within a year, he was in 2 car accidents, and he was struck by a vehicle a few months apart. And the first one almost completely crippled him and crushed his legs in the first accident, the first vehicle that hit him. The second accident, he was struck again by a vehicle, and that was the end of his dream of being a professional baseball player. But he went on to do something that he was very passionate about and that he loved to do, and that was mow grass. That was something that centered him and made him happy and connected, and he loved, and he was very talented with edging and mowing grass and lawn maintenance, believe it or not. And he went on to pursue his dream that he wanted to be a professional baseball player. But he went on to start a company, and eventually he built that lawn mowing company up to a huge corporation that is responsible for all the major baseball league fields. And he is the groundskeeper for major baseball, stadiums. And he does all the grounds work. And he spends his days on the mound or in the field, in the game, making the lawns and the chalk lines and everything look absolutely beautiful for the fans to enjoy during the game. But he's living baseball every day, but he's not playing. So that's another example of a way that he just had to transition and make that little switch. But it worked for him, and it fulfilled, his dream. And I mean, he's living it every day. He's just not on the team.
I am so glad that he was able to make a connection between the grass and the baseball could still be a part of his life and his experience. That is beautiful. Thank you.
It's a great story. I know I don't have the name of his book. I've read his book, and it's just one of those inspirational stories. And I use it because it brings home what I teach. Because for some people, it's very difficult. It's like, I dreamed about doing this, and I just don't see how I can make that happen in my current life circumstances. I'll never be able to do this. And so the key is to walk people through options and alternatives, but still, connect them back to their little girl or the little boy that's inside of them, and making them happy and satisfied goes a long way.
That is fantastic.
They really want us to succeed together.
So in your book, you mentioned being 50 and making some changes. And I think when we hit our 40s and 50s, a lot of times we make a life check, a mental life check about, man, by the time, I always thought by the time I got here, I would be at this level, whatever that might be. And then we look and say, I'm not there. Or I am there, but a lot of times it's, I'm not there, and there's that dissatisfaction. So is that kind of the people that you tailor to? Are those people who are looking and saying, I'm not where I want to be?
Yes, and I work with a lot of vets. My podcast is Men on a Mission podcast, and it's all about veterans. Okay. It's a veteran-centered podcast, and I'm an Army veteran myself of 7 years. And so I work with a lot of vets. Mostly men are my clients. I worked with a couple of ladies, but basically the people that I'm working with and the people that I speak with is the ones that are currently in a place that they don't want to be. They're not satisfied. They're struggling. They're angry. They're lost. And quite honestly, very desperate because they've lost everything within them. They're just kind of going through the motions. And with veterans, of course, on average, we have 22 to 24 veterans committing suicide every single day.
Whoa.
And I'm doing what I can to help to keep my brothers and sisters alive so that they can, do better things and become, the leaders that they are within them. They have the training, they have that strength, they have that seed of greatness, and veterans just naturally have that leadership quality. And when they're down, or when they're suicidal, or when they're troubled, it takes a lot of digging to bring that back out. But I believe that the veterans, for me, is where I focus most of my time, is because, I'm looking to build leaders.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, because apparently there is a real need there, something that I personally was not aware of. What do you think makes a veteran in particular have a greater challenge than someone who's not a veteran?
The veterans are trained to do a specific mission, and they have camaraderie. They have a team, a squad, a platoon, a company, and things are done together, not by themselves, and they have support, and they have a real strong honor, a position of honor, and they take the oath, and they pledge their lives to the mission and to their fellow brothers and sisters in arms. So they are willing to die for another soldier because they know that soldier would do the same thing for them. Now, when they separate from the military and they come out into the civilian world, very different scenario. Most of society doesn't care about their mission, doesn't really care if they, succeed or not. And as far as having your back and you having theirs, that's extremely rare in the civilian world. And so when they separate from the military, they do not have a place where they're comfortable, where they feel safe, and where they feel understood, because that's been ripped out of their life, and they're put into a very, the harsh reality of the civilian world. And that really brings a lot of them into a very negative place, and it can just spiral out of control. So that's, keeping them connected with other military people, giving them a mission, giving them the opportunity to stand with other people and say, I got your back, but you have to have mine. And that also means they have to love themselves, protect their little me, self-parent their little me, and be strong enough to keep themselves alive, which in turn they're keeping their little person alive, and they're protecting that little person. And that they're the parent, they're the adult. They are basically put into a situation of that they need to care for something. They need to protect something. That's why service animals are so important for veterans, because it's something to love and something to take care of. And service animals tend to be very protective of their veteran owners. And so that's why service animals are so important for veterans. But I also bring in the child part too, because even if they don't have a platoon or a mission or a company, and they don't have their buddies to take care of and protect, I can bring them back to their little maze and show them how to love and protect their little selves and keep them alive, and then move them forward in another mission of their choice outside of the military, with the support of veterans, myself and other veterans as well.
I like that. So you're creating, making someone feel useful, recognizing their use by having someone to protect, and then a service animal, you're protecting the animal, and the animal is in turn giving something back to you. And that feeling needed and feeling useful is a pretty universal need and desire. So if someone, we have veterans who are struggling, what kind of action steps would you recommend that somebody take so that they don't slip into a dark place?
Well, first of all, they have to see value in their own life. And for some, when the mission's gone and it's just them, that's not enough to keep them moving forward, especially if their past is filled with a lot of pain, abuse, no father, drug addiction, abuse. There's several things in there that will take them down by themselves. They're much stronger in a team, or they're much stronger working towards a goal that benefits many others outside of themselves. That's an innate characteristic of a veteran. And real quick, this ties into it. My autobiography, Man at 50, is quite literally, the title is quite literally what happened, because I spent 50 years of my life being a child and codependent of everyone around me. I was codependent on both of my wives. They were older. They made all the decisions. I was codependent on my mother, my father, my brothers, my sisters, and I made no decisions as an adult for 50 years. Slow learner. But at 50, there was multiple things that I, put in the book and explained why I made a transition and became a man at 50. And now the second half of my life is one of service, and I'm no longer codependent. So that was a transition, that I made. And I did that, to answer your question, with a 9-step process that I created. I created it and I followed it to the letter for myself, and that's what brought me through my transition to move forward, and basically have kind of two lives. First 50, second 50, and the second 50 obviously looks way more promising than the first half of my life. So those 9 steps is what I start with, to answer your question. When I work with my clients, I take them through those 9 steps. And I've proven that they're effective because, every turn they worked for me. And they reach places that nobody else could reach. And, I kind of did that. It was self-directed. So those 9 steps are in a video course that I have, an audio course that I have, and I do go through the 9 steps and the worksheet with all my clients that I work with. And we sign and date the worksheet as a personal commitment to ourselves and our little person that we will follow those 9 steps and won't stop until we get to where we want to be.
That is wonderful. So congratulations on becoming a man. And that's something that, we have a tendency to think comes with age. And it really doesn't come naturally. The skill set that we need, we have to have a skill set. And I'm proud of you for being able to do it and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. That's pretty rare. Usually it requires a mentor like what you are doing for other people. But I know people who are in their 40s and 50 and still living at home with mom and dad and haven't made that transition to adulthood. So I've seen that. It doesn't just come because the calendar kept moving and the years kept moving.
Right. The codependency was, I think this is an important point. Hopefully your listeners benefit from it. The codependency was literally little Brad in control of my life. As a child, he was, you make decisions for me. You protect me. You make me safe. You let me do what I want to do. And that was my little Brad running my life. And that's when we had a come to Jesus moment. And I found a song by the Pretenders. And the name of the song is I'll Stand By You. And let no one hurt you. Nothing you confess will make me love you less. And that was a mantra and a song that I played for him when I started to take the role of an adult and told him that I was in charge and now no one's going to hurt him. I will protect him. And that's where my self-parenting started. And once I got a handle on that and he was secure and believed me, then he kind of let me make the changes that needed to be made. And we're both a lot happier for it.
That is brilliant. So was there a catalyst for this come to Jesus moment, or you just woke up one morning and said, it's time?
I had 2 failed marriages. I walked away from my first son when he was 3. And my first marriage was 6 years. She left me for another woman, and she had a lesbian affair, which crushed any masculinity that I might have had. The military, I went into the military to gain that masculine energy because I needed it, I craved it, but I didn't. It didn't work. It didn't fill that void, But the military I had high hopes that it would, but it was my void to fill, and the military couldn't do it no matter how many years I was in. And my second marriage was 22 years. She was in complete control and basically ran everything and directed my entire life for 22 years. The last 10 years of that marriage was a cohabitation. There was no physical relationship for 10 years. And my second son with my second wife, I made a promise to myself and my second son that I would not abandon another one of my children like I did my first son at 3 years old. So the last 10 years of that extremely difficult 22-year marriage, those 10 years I stayed because I made a promise no matter what, I would stay in that relationship until he was an adult and he could understand my reasoning for leaving. And in those last 10 years is when I started to work on myself, little Brad, and I started to make that transition. And outside of that relationship, began to kind of take my position where I needed to be. And then I did leave that marriage, and I did leave my second son when he was 19 with his mother. And to this day, I don't think he understood the sacrifice that I made, because I was miserable for the last 10 years of that 22-year marriage. I was just living in the same house as my wife, but I had I didn't have a relationship with her. And once again, a song played a part in getting me through those 10 years. The song is by Elvis, and it is called My Boy. And that song by Elvis is called My Boy. I stay because of you, my boy. And if you listen to the lyrics of My Boy by Elvis, that's what I lived
story.
for 10 years. And that's what got me through my commitment to him to stay irregardless. But when he reached 19, it was my turn. It was my life, and it was time for me to move forward.
And now that you have healed yourself and that you are in a better place, then you're in a better place to attract someone that is a really better match for you, and someone who you can really be happy with, and she can be happy with you. And that's your situation now, right?
Yes. I'm on my third and last marriage, and both my previous marriages, my wives were older. My third marriage, my wife is younger than me, and I have an opportunity to be an adult, to be a grown-up, and to make decisions on a masculine level. And she's good with that. That's something that she needs. She needs a strong man. She needs someone that will make the decisions and that will protect her, and that helps her as well in her journey and what she's doing. And so, my third marriage obviously was a great decision, and I think it was a great decision for both me and my current wife, because we're giving each other what we need most to flourish. I'm not fighting against her personality or her state of mind like I did in the previous marriages. So, choosing a partner that aligns with you and your heart and your dream is extremely important.
Very.
And then stepping into their world and supporting them the best you can is equally as important.
Excellent. But I also love the point that you can't complete yourself or solve your problems with choosing someone, even if they're awesome. that still doesn't fill the void. You have to be able to recognize your own little me and be the parent of that little me and take responsibility for that. And I think when we're in a better place, then our relationships can be in a better place. So thank you. Thank you for the things that you've shared with me. Your experiences are different than what I have, and I feel like my mind is opened a little bit. So I appreciate you sharing, and I appreciate that you have figured something out that you are able to share and pay it forward and to help other people at whatever age to be able to meet those needs and find joy and happiness in their life. So, Brad, thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Well, you're very welcome. Hopefully it was helpful. I don't know if I touched you in that 20 minutes and made you kind of look at things slightly different. But hopefully I was a success with that. But it might take more than 20 minutes. But like I said, I can help at least change people's perspectives, and that's a good starting place.
I think so too. I think you can plant a seed in 20 minutes, and it might be a new seed that they've never thought of before. So I would call it successful, and my time is well spent. So thanks, Brad.
Thank you very much.
In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Danish philosopher, theologian, poet, social critic, and author Søren Kierkegaard. He said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward." Today, I invite you to look backward at your life so you can move forward. See you next time on Linda's Corner.